right? So you refine your approach and you improve the presentation and you practice more and you pitch it in front of other people. And then you find out you're pitching the wrong person. You continually learn until you get so good, people aren't going to say no any longer.
You're listening to an Apex Mindset episode of the RCN podcast, where we learn from inspiring individuals who push the boundaries to reach extreme levels of success. Apex Mindset. Elevate your life. In this episode of Apex Mindset, best-selling author, entrepreneur, TEDx, and keynote speaker, Heather Monahan.
We live in a world where you can do anything if you're relentless in your pursuit for solutions. Stop apologizing and putting yourself beneath others. Take others off of pedestals so we can all be on equal footing and treat others equally as yourself. You know, there's so many different ways in any moment we can be creating confidence or chipping away at it. And it's about being conscious and really making the choice to do it. Fire the villains in your life was the key for me to really take off. Visualize what your goals are, see them happening, and put them out to the world. Tell somebody that's going to help you to hold yourself accountable so you take action and make it happen.
Welcome to the Apex Mindset podcast, and we are excited today to have Heather with us. Heather, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We are going to be getting in and talking about a little bit about you and your background, introduce you to our audience, and learn from you. And we know you've got some books out there. You've got a podcast. You're an author. We want to hear about your story and share that with our network.
Sure. So I grew up poor, and one of the things I did straight away when I was 9 years old was I decided I just wanted to start working and creating revenue so that I would never have to struggle. And I essentially went from, being a paper boy to a busboy to working at fast food restaurants to waiting tables. And ultimately over that, 18-year span of time, I was developing my sales skills. And when I graduated college, I went right to work for the Gala Winery. And I just outworked everybody, became the top salesperson in the state and became a brand manager for the state. And then I was sexually harassed when I was working there. So I didn't have a lot of confidence back then. So I quit and I ended up getting into the radio business where I outworked everybody, became a top salesperson, and earned the opportunity to become an equity partner at a very young age when I was 24 years old. And I moved to Saginaw, Michigan to run a cluster of radio stations valued at $25 million. And within under 3 years was able to drive revenues on the team to sell the company in excess of $55 million. From there, I pitched myself for a job that didn't exist at a publicly traded company, moved to Florida and became a VP of sales for an organization across the country, and ultimately got promoted 3 times, becoming chief revenue officer. And during my tenure there, more than doubled the company's revenue. When I arrived, we were billing $100 million. And when I was fired 2.5 years ago, we were billing in excess of $200 million annually in revenues. So during that time, I really had started stepping into my confidence and launched a personal brand. And it really had angered a number of people that I worked with at that company. And I was told to close it down and to take my social media back private again. And I decided not to. I decided to stand up for myself and create confidence within myself. And during that time, the CEO I had worked for 14 years became ill, and he elevated his daughter to replace him. And she's the one that fired me immediately, which in turn, I went out on my own. I wrote and self-published my first book, Confidence Creator. I launched my public speaking career and ultimately launched my podcast 1 year ago, Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan. And that show's now number 17 on the entrepreneurial charts on Apple Podcasts.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. I know that's quite a feat in a short amount of time. I guess even looking back before starting your brand, talking about how you were able to find kind of success and climb ladders at certain firms. There's a lot of people that are trying to figure out what is it you have to do, in your mindset. What is it that helps you push and kind of grow those ladders? So many people nowadays become stagnant and they don't really even know what are the first steps to take to even just increasing where you're already at before even thinking about entrepreneurship or self-branding or anything like that.
I mean, I just think you need to be relentless in your pursuit, whatever it is. So often, I launched a mentoring program a month ago, and one of the number one things I see happen with people is they just throw their arms up. Oh, I don't know. I can't find a job. Oh, I don't know. I can't get the promotion. Oh, I don't know how to write a book, so I can't do it. No, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. We live in a world where you can do anything if you're relentless in your pursuit for solutions. And I don't necessarily claim to be the smartest person in any room, but I'll work harder than anyone else and I'll just keep taking the swings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, plenty of times I pitched myself for a job that didn't exist and I got a no.
Yep.
Right. So you refine your approach and you improve the presentation and you practice more and you
Yeah.
pitch it in front of other people. And then you find out you're pitching the wrong person. You
Yeah.
continually learn until you get so good, people aren't going to say no any longer. And if you've been wanting to write the book, but you can't figure out how to do it, Google how to write a book. That's what I did.
Right.
And it said, you ultimately need to be disciplined and sit down and write. And then once I did that, I got to a point where I said, you know what? I need to tap someone who's ahead of me. And I hired an editor who had written 19 books. And
Yeah.
from that point forward, we moved so fast because he knew what he was doing. So he laid the blueprint out for me and I just did the work. It's really about get out of your own way and focus on solutions.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. What about people that are obviously, like, you'd gone through kind of a negative situation in the workplace, whether it's harassment, and even you talk about, it used to be the stereotypical of the male against the female, and now it's you talk about female. What are some of the ways that people that find themselves in a bullying situation in the workplace, what are some steps that they can take to either improve the situation if they're not ready to just jump away from a job? What are some recommendations around that?
Well, first of all, journal and write all of this stuff down because you want to remember what occurred. Number one, for a legal situation, if it ever comes to that, it's really important to have documentation. But number two, go to whoever your supervisor is and go to the offender and say, no more. I'm not going to tolerate this type of behavior. You've got to stand up for yourself and voice what your boundaries are, ask for help, for your supervisor, HR, whoever that person is. And the goal is to end that behavior and get you out of the situation. And the challenge in corporate America is sometimes these situations are very much behind the scenes. People might not notice what's happening and someone's doing it in a very underhanded, passive aggressive fashion that is really impacting you negatively, but maybe other people aren't noticing it so much. And if you're in a toxic work culture like that, where things like that are allowed to go on, you need to ultimately get out of that company because things like this will keep showing up. And, that's one of the things I look back to is I recognized I was in a toxic situation, but I kept coming up with excuses why I needed to stay. I had built the team. I had golden handcuffs. I had the company needed whatever, the excuse was. But I was just petrified, by fear of going out on my own or making that move or making that transition. And it took getting fired to leave a really negative situation.
Yeah. So do you think that if you hadn't been fired, you would have at some point started on your own? Or is that really what you think finally gave you the catalyst to make the move and push yourself?
Yeah, I didn't have any plans to go out on my own. It was not like I had some grand scheme. I always just thought I was walking that linear path to CEO in corporate America. I never thought I would become an entrepreneur and start my own company.
Is there, how do you feel about it now? Obviously you're doing great. Are you really happier doing what you're doing? Is there anything you would have changed? Do you wish you were still climbing the corporate, or have you found that your new journey is allowing you to pursue things that you're enjoying more?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad I'm not in corporate America any longer. And, I am so grateful that I went out on my own when I did. I only wish I had done it sooner.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that, we talk about going through difficult situations. Sometimes people get so wrapped up in something negative that's going on, or being in a bad spot, or getting fired. But there's always a way to find the positive in it too, right? Like getting fired is what launched you to be where you are today. Looking at those types of situations and encouraging those that, right now are going through difficulties. So many people through the coronavirus times around us, are getting laid off, are losing jobs, and it's a very serious situation and people are getting sick. But at the same time, we talk with business owners and we talk with leaders around the country, and it's also an opportunity. It's a time of opportunity for those that are looking for new work. Creating something that's digital. Everybody's sitting at home right now on the computer. They're on social media. Using this time to create a type of business that's easy to get in front of people. There's always positive that can come from the negative situations as well.
Yeah, it's just up to us to find it.
Yep, which is not always easy. But I think that's part of where, looking at your mindset and finding confidence in yourself, those are the types of things that it seems most people struggle to do. But if you kind of can reverse and look back and find ways to make those steps, even if it's a small step at a time, it really comes down to yourself, your decision making, deciding you have the confidence, deciding that fear isn't what's going to keep that door closed, deciding that you don't have to stay locked in a work situation, and then just trying it. It's you can't, like you said, you can reach out to 100 people and, the answer could be no. But what happens if you get the right yeses, if you try enough?
Yeah, it's not about the no's, it's about finding the one yes.
Yep. Exactly. So could you tell us a little bit about your podcast? We've watched it a bit. I saw your first interview. We love Gary. How did you feel starting your podcast? What were you thinking about when you got going?
Yeah, I was really excited. I had, it's like, if you put the reps in the gym, you feel pretty confident when you go to grab a weight. I had been a guest on podcasts for over a year, and I had gone on hundreds of podcasts at that point in time. So I felt very comfortable being the one to grab the microphone, and I discussed, different formats. And so we decided on the format, which would be a third, a third, and a third. My intro to my show is the challenges that I'm going through as an entrepreneur, as a new business owner, how I'm overcoming them, kind of the behind the scenes on what happens with me. Then the middle portion of my show is an interview with my great guests and hearing about their adversity and how they achieved success. And the end of the show is a wrap up where I answer my audience's questions on a weekly basis. They send to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever, on any social media or at my website. And it's been a phenomenal year. I'm so proud. We just hit a year yesterday, and it's been really exciting.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Well, here we're celebrating your podcast anniversary.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us on ours around that time as well. Are there any guests that you on your podcast that you've been trying to get or interested in getting that you haven't yet or you're excited to?
I just interviewed Colin O'Brady today, and I had been trying to get him for about a year. It took a year to finally get him, and just did the interview today, and it went fantastic. So, the key there is just not to give up. A lot of people will give up and say, oh, I can't get to them, or I'm driving them crazy. And it's just about, how can you bring value to others, and how can you find different connection points? And I had been reaching out through one friend to him, to his wife, and getting nowhere. And then I got a response from his wife, and then I heard nothing back. And I reached out to another friend the other day, and he said, oh yeah, let me call them right away. And he put it right together. So, just about keep it top of mind. It might not happen today. It might not happen in 6 months, but don't give up on what those goals are. It just keep continuing to look for a different way to get there.
Yeah. Who are some of the leaders that inspire you that you enjoy learning from?
Oh my gosh, so many of my guests.
I know there's so many.
Yeah, Jesse Itzler was one of my guests that I'm so inspired by. Ed Milet is another guest of mine that I'm so inspired by. Gary Vaynerchuk, of course. I mean, there's so many people out there that, all of the people that inspire me, I bring on my show because I want to share their message. Colin today is such a phenomenal, he's a lot younger than I am and achieved such greatness and accomplishment at such a young age. So that's really inspiring to me. So there's just so much inspiration all around us.
Yeah. I feel like our podcast is newer, and I feel like we're kind of taking the same approach. We're like, we don't have a ton of huge relationships, but we're like, what? We have the mindset. We know what it takes. We follow Jesse and Gary and all these people. And it's like, all you can do is reach out and ask, but like they even, they'll tell you, you have to find ways to provide value to other people. I have built a pretty big network on LinkedIn. We have a lot of businesses we work with back in our previous businesses, apart from this podcast. And so I'm trying to use it as an opportunity to say, we have a big network. we want to get this word out. We know a lot of businesses that struggle with marketing. We know a lot of businesses that struggle with, business development and growing, financials. We know a lot of people who want to start businesses, but, are lacking the mindset, are lacking what are the first steps. So we're like, we got to go out and find people that have done it. We got to bring on the people that we know, Gary, Jesse, Matt Higgins, we had on recently, and share their message. And I love Gary's approach to, not needing to hide anything. So many businesses are afraid to share their secrets and, keep everything to themselves and build to be the one empire, and I love the approach of, letting go of that and really just doing your best to share with everybody.
Absolutely.
You talk a little bit about confidence as a muscle, right? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my first book is called Confidence Creator, and it's a compilation of my lowest moments in my life and how I learned to create confidence from them. Going through different tactics and strategies like firing the villains in your life, stop apologizing and putting yourself beneath others, take others off of pedestals so we can all be on equal footing and treat others equally as yourself. There's so many different ways in any moment we can be creating confidence or chipping away at it. And it's about being conscious and really making the choice to do it.
Nice. Are you working on any other books at the moment?
Yeah, I just signed with HarperCollins Leadership, and we are launching a book next year that I'm really excited about.
That's awesome. Well, we'll be sure when we get toward wrapping this up, we'll include some links back to your current books as well as to your site so people can find anything new that you publish. Let's see. I know I had a couple other questions in here. So apart from your podcast and your book, you've got a couple other programs going on. You work on doing mentorships. Tell us a little bit about, for those that are listening or watching, what is it that you're, helping others with, or how can they find you?
Yeah, my website's heathermonahan.com, and it has everything. I have a confidence video course that's available there, as well as I launched my first ever elite mentoring program in May 1st. And it was due to the pandemic. I wasn't able to travel any longer for my speaking engagements. So I looked at what do people ask me for, and I'm constantly being asked to mentor and develop people, whether they want to become a first-time author, a TEDx speaker, they want to launch a podcast, they want to get promoted at work, they want to get to the C-suite, whatever it may be. And so basically I said, all right, these people have been wanting this from me. I couldn't give it to them, but I'm home now. This is the time to test it. And so I just put a social media post up and said, I'm launching my first ever elite mentoring program. It's 30 days, and shoot me a DM if you want to sign up. And so since then, I launched my Shopify store for my June program and have learned to automate and make things a lot more simplistic and elevate the whole program. But the response has been fantastic. I have some people in my program working on building their personal brand exposure on LinkedIn. One woman launched her own company. Another one quit a job that she hated, and we got her into another job. So every person, one's a leader, a CEO of a company, and he wants to learn more about the sales part of his business because he feels like he doesn't really understand it. So everyone has different goals, but each week we come together as a team and we celebrate our wins, our accomplishments, and the action steps we're taking to become more confident and more successful.
Nice. So what does that look like? So you guys get together on like weekly calls, and then is there something separate that they do throughout the week, or what does the program look like?
Yeah, so there's a 30-day confidence creation plan. They get my confidence video course, which is an instructional course that walks them through how to create confidence in their life, some workbooks and whatnot, some work for them to do personally. They get a daily email from me on directives, on actions that they can take to help them achieve their goals. And we do a weekly team power hour on Zoom every Friday. And then they also get an individual meeting with me to help map out a blueprint for their own personal goals and goal achievement.
Awesome. And that's all found through your website?
Yes, heathermonahan.com.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, we'll be sure to link that in. If you were going to leave everybody off with one specific tip on how they can, improve their mindset and gain confidence, again, kind of whether it's through negative workspace or, taking that first step in entrepreneurship, whatever it is, what would be kind of the one step you would recommend?
There's so many. I mean, fire the villains in your life was the key for me to really take off. Visualize what your goals are, see them happening, and put them out to the world. Tell somebody that's going to help you to hold yourself accountable so you take action and make it happen.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to sharing this out with our network. We'll send people back to your site, and we wish you the best. We're going to make sure we continue to follow your podcast as well. You've been having some great guests.
Thanks so much for having me.